everyone. Laura Gilsdorf with Madison and Company based out of Evergreen, Colorado. And I'm here again with LeAnne.
LeAnne with Universal Lending based out of Denver area.
Yeah, so today we wanted to talk about what is happening in the real estate market because there's some typical things happening and then there's some, let's say, non-typical things happening because we've got interest rates higher than we've seen them in a long time. And then typically it's the month of November, so people are starting to slow down and think about the holidays, and the dynamics of the two are just kind of creating an interesting market. Have you been seeing the same thing, LeAnne?
Yeah, and I would say for sure, and it really just depends on the area that you live. Because I know where you're at in Evergreen, you still have listings that are going over ask. But I know in a lot of areas around Denver, homes are sitting longer than they normally are.
Yeah, exactly. As an example, to give context, I have a listing out of Colorado Springs that is going to probably be going off the market pretty soon because the market just hasn't really been sustaining down there. We've had a lot of interest, and as a real estate professional, we've got a lot of data that we pull from where we say, okay, for every 10 to 15 showings, that should equal one offer. And if it doesn't, then that means you're priced too high, so on and so forth. And we've been using all the tactics that there are, and yet it still hasn't transferred into an offer. But then here locally in Evergreen, we still see listings that are going off on the first weekend, sometimes getting multiple offers, sometimes still getting over asking price, but at least they're not sitting for multiple days on end. I think the average day on market across the Denver metro area is about 30 to 40 days in the most recent data set I was looking at. Which is different. It's a lot different than where we've been at for the past couple years, and I think it's just taking everybody, especially sellers, some time to transition into that state of patience, because that's really what's I'm seeing is needed as a seller, is just a lot of patience.
Yeah, and it's all perspective, right? So when I first got into this, if you sold my first house, I think I sold in like 90 days or something like that. And we were excited. That was pretty normal,
Yeah,
60 days. And so still, even 30 days seems to me fast
yeah,
because I remember the days of waiting and there would be hundreds of business cards on your counter and you'd be like, okay, am I going to sell this house yet? So,
for sure. For
um,
sure. Yeah, and it is perspective, but because I would say as an industry and as home buyers and sellers, we've all been super spoiled over the
very,
past couple years with the really low interest rates and the speed at which everything was moving. Because as a seller, you are almost, not completely, but almost guaranteed to sell your house and to sell it for above whatever you invested into it, even if you only owned it for a short amount of time. Now, that made it really competitive for buyers because they had to get savvy and offer a bunch of different things, and felt like you were giving an arm and a leg and your baby away to be able to get a house. Thankfully, it's not that way for buyers anymore. But because sellers are still kind of not quite transitioned out of that hot market, we're seeing not as many sellers on the market too. So that's just limiting our inventory overall, which can make things challenging and just interesting, we'll say. But I don't know, as a buyer, LeAnne, because I know you work with a lot of buyers, right? Um, I don't know. It seems like it's still a good time to buy. Like there's some trepidation maybe about interest rates or what people can afford, but what are you seeing with the buyers that you're having conversations with?
um, really, it's what you can afford. So if you can afford, the monthly payment with the current interest rates, then I say it's a great time to purchase a house. But you have to be able to afford it. And what I'm seeing right now is a lot of seller concessions allowing for rate buy downs or helping with closing costs, or 2-1 buy downs where your interest rate is temporarily down. So there are more opportunities than there were in the last few years for buyers. We just don't have, the super low interest rates.
Right.
But they're still not bad. It's just if you want to make sure you can afford that monthly payment. Um, and like
Exactly.
you
And
said, you don't have to go through, bidding against 20 people and hoping you get the house and then moving to the next one, giving your
right.
arm.
Yeah,
You actually have some negotiation ability, which is nice. I mean, the people that are
definitely.
purchasing right now are getting things fixed in their homes, and um, it's kind of, to me, more like a normal market than
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. And I think that's what we all ultimately want to see is the best case scenario being a balanced market between buyers and between sellers where expectations are relatively realistic on
Yeah.
both sides. And to your point with what can you afford, that's always been the case, right? That never changes no matter what the current interest rate is. And so if you find yourself as a buyer really like being buzzworded, if you will, by the news media and everything else about interest rates and now's not the time and everything else, there may be some truth to that, but I wouldn't weight it too heavily. And I would really look at the specifics of your situation
Yeah.
so that you know what's going to work for you outside of what all the news and social media outlets are saying. For example, I've got another buyer that's looking in the Denver metro area. He reached out and he's like, I don't have a lot of money, but I do have some money coming in, and I'd like to know, is there anything available under 400,000? It's like he came into it like, okay, there's probably not anything. But I went onto the MLS, I looked, I said, give me some basics on your parameters. And I was able to pull a pretty healthy list of options for him to the point where he was like, oh, okay, I can do this, and he got with a lender and everything else. He's got some stuff to work out. And all that to say, your situation, you might be telling yourself in the background because of whatever you're hearing in the news that you can't make it work or you shouldn't make it work or you should just wait. But the best advice that we could give is don't take that for surface value. Really do your due diligence to have the appropriate conversations with me or with LeAnne or a lender in your area about your situation and how we can make the best of it for you now or in preparation for the future.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I agree. So
Yeah.
I have some clients that we actually just closed today that they found their dream home in their dream area, and they were able to get concessions. They were able to get a reduced purchase price. And I promise you, 2 years ago, that would not have happened. And they are 100% fine with a little bit higher of a mortgage payment because they found this home and they're feeling like they're already walking in with equity, because in 3 or 4 years, that home's going to be worth a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. And, we are seeing some dips in values in certain regions and certain neighborhoods, and then other values are holding pretty strong. But if you look historically, real estate is always a pretty sound investment overall, especially if you're planning on holding on to it for several years. So if that's you and you find yourself in a position of considering buying or renting, it's always worth a conversation before cutting yourself in or cutting yourself out of what might be possible for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's free to talk to us. That's what I always tell people. It's free
Exactly.
to talk to us.
Exactly. And it's really no pressure too, because I do run into a lot of people that kind of have an attitude of, no, no, not ready, not ready. And I'm like, it really doesn't hurt. There's no pressure on my side. There's no pressure on the lending side. You might run into some realtors or some lending professionals who put the pressure on. But those are not the people you want to work with. There are plenty of professionals out there who will be willing to have those conversations without steering you in one direction or another for their own benefit or their own gain. So just if you run into any of those, my advice would be don't stop there. Just find someone who's really going to be your trusted advisor and your advocate through the process.
Or just call us.
Exactly. Exactly. Because we're guaranteed to be that no matter what. All right. Well, anything else you want to share or say about today's real estate market, LeAnne?
No, I think we covered it all. And again, reach out to us, text, email, call if you have any questions. We're here to help.
Yeah, we definitely are. And we do these videos every couple weeks. So if you are liking what you're hearing, go ahead and click the subscribe button so that you get notified for the next one. And don't be a stranger in the meantime.
Bye.